I mean, I talked about this considering a very specific local situation of a street I worked with, and it's one of these streets in transformation. In Central European cities, there are a lot of streets in transformation, I would say, starting after 1989 with new waves of immigration coming into places on one hand. So there's flows of immigrants, but on the other hand, also the way citizens use cities change tremendously because they don't do their local shopping any longer where they used to do it, but just go to malls that are at the periphery. And so in a way, the question where and where from was a very site-specific question. Who are the people who make a street today? Where do they come from? And what are the urban knowledges and urban histories they bring with them? But I think on a meta level of looking at it, the question where and where from is very much a question about how do we perceive what the everyday is constituted of. I mean, how do you map a terrain in order to say this is where we are, this is the here in the where, and where does it come from? I mean, what are the influences that sort of come together in order to shape it? And you just said that one of your projects dealt with the issue of local and global, and a lot of urban researchers, but also artists, have used this expression of the global. I mean, like the global and the local, how they not only come together, but I think they are also in a very dialectic relationship of influencing each other. So I guess all the locals, wherever they are in this world now, shape their relations or carve their relations to what they perceive to be the global. So you could say there are as many globals as there are locals because they are shaped always from a local perspective and in this way of not only reacting with and towards the global, but also constituting actually what it is. So it's a very transformational or transitional where and where from that people navigate and I think produce over and over again from one day to the next. I think it's both. It has to do with locationality, it has to do with place, but as you just pointed out, it has a lot to do with where do we actually come from. Not only historically in the very past, like the long past, but also the near past, if you will. So where do you come from yesterday, and where will you go to tomorrow, if you will. But I think the question is, what do we define as contemporary art? I think it opens up a lot of, your question opens up a lot of questions. I mean, you could say there is, or has been, an accelerated art market that in a very, very fast way absorbs everything that is supposedly the new. So you could say the attitude towards the contemporary is one that actually needs something that is contemporary in a very fast production or an accelerated production. And on the other hand, you could say there is publics in plural that might not be exposed to what contemporary art is and don't really know how to judge it or how to link it to what they have known before. So I guess when artists who work with the public realm or with politically conscious questions or with socially engaged art practices, they're actually at the forefront of not only producing their art but also producing their audience along the way. And then I think they are in immediate, sometimes maybe even very spontaneous dialogue to find out what this contemporary is for both of them, for them as artists, but also for their audience. And I guess if you create this space that I would call a dialogical space where artists and audience move back and forth and have this exchange to create the situation, that for me would be a very contemporary practice. But I think there is a wide range of contemporary practices that are very, very different from each other. Well, if I answer this question in a very personal way, I would say I always try to work as local as possible. So that means if you go to a place, or also if you work in the place where you are originally from, I think for me it's always important to study, analyze, to find out as much as I possibly can, and then I try to go beyond that. I mean, not to stop where the now is, but to think together with others, how can you transcend its boundaries, limitations, constraints. So I guess in a way you could say it's very important to know where you are, but I think the where you are should also not impede you or hinder you to think beyond that. And I think that's exactly the space where also art and other cultural practices have played an important role to question limitations, or to carve out a way of creating something that is not confined by what is already there. Well, I'm not interested in archives for nostalgic reasons. I'm interested in archives, let's say, for strategic reasons. And what can you actually learn about practices of the past when thinking of an archive? When I worked with the women in Vancouver, it was not about creating an archive for an archive's sake, but it was about thinking what are actually claims, demands that they had in the past and that they realized that they made come true, very strong political demands. So in that sense, I think even if you want to separate yourself from the past, or if you want a cut, a discontinuity, it's important to know what was there. Otherwise, you will not know in what way you're actually different, or in what way you actually question what the past was. So again, I'm not obsessed with the past for any kind of nostalgia, but I think it allows you for a different critical space to operate out of.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.